Let's look at some more advanced features of rendering. So I'm going to save my existing rendering project to Rendering Advanced. So you can go File, Save As, and just save it as Rendering Advanced. The first thing we'll look at is setting in and out points in our program monitor. So you've seen before with your source monitor on the left here that you can set in and out marks. You can also do that in your program monitor and just try it out. Setting a mark in, and then down in the middle of the second clip I'll put a mark out. So you can see on the timeline when you set those in and out points that the highlighted part is between the marks and the rest is a little bit darker. You can use these in and out marks to render just parts of your sequence. So say I only wanted this part or maybe just the last part, I can select my in and out marks here, and when I go to File and Export Media, I can leave the default option here, Sequence In Out, and that will just render the parts I marked. So while we're in this window, let's look at some more of the advanced features. So we've seen a few of these options about formats and presets as well. Let's have a look at some options down here. So use maximum render quality. Well, that sounds pretty good. That's, in theory, is going to give you a better output video. But in reality, the quality is not that improved. It does extend the time to export. So based on past experience, it's not worth using. It just takes much longer and the quality isn't noticeably better. The other one here is use previews. So it does give you a description of each of these, and you can read that. But generally you shouldn't use previews because you never know, it will make rendering faster, but you never know what the quality is going to be like if you're using previews. Some of the other options here, so you got your effects, we won't worry about those. Video, okay, your basic video settings, bitrate settings. We'll come back to that. Let's quickly go through these other ones. So audio, the standard is AAC. Multiplexer, yep, don't need to worry about that. Captions, you can use closed captions in Premiere Pro. We're not going to look at that, but if you were to use closed captions, you've got a few options here. Importantly with captions, you have to select certain formats because not all formats support closed captions and publish. You can export to YouTube and Vimeo, Creative Cloud and a few others. So if you want to directly render and then upload your video, you can click one of these boxes here, enter your settings so that the process is a bit more seamless. You're not having to separately go to YouTube, upload, etc. Let's go back to video now, and just one important setting here. So looking at these bitrate encoding settings, so variable bitrate, 1 pass. That basically means if there's a lot happening in your video, you're going to have a higher bitrate. So if there's an explosion scene, a lot going on, you're going to have a variable bitrate that's quite high. Whereas with a constant bitrate, no matter where you are in your video, it's going to be constantly using the same amount of data. Then there's also variable bitrate 2 pass. So that results in higher quality again, but does take longer to encode. So the first pass is about analyzing your video, second pass is about compressing your video. And then there's constant bitrate. No matter what's happening, it's going to use a target bitrate of 10 megabytes per second. Now you can use this, if you're not too worried about video quality, you can drop that. And you may need to experiment with the values a bit, but using a constant bitrate may be a good idea when you're working on your drafts. You can really drop the bitrate to say 7 and check what the output's like. And as long as it's okay, that might be fine to use for your own drafting purposes. And you can probably drop it a bit lower depending on your footage, and you also change the settings of these variable bit rates as well. So you can play around with those as well. So we're saying maximum bit rate of 7 here. Certainly these bit rates can affect your encoding time and also the size of your video. So experiment with them a bit, but certainly constant bit rate and drop the target bit rate. That'll get you a very much smaller encoding time and also file size.